Welcome to the funniest stories in Reddit history. We've scoured the internet to bring you some of the wildest, most unexpected, and downright hilarious stories from the world of Reddit. From epic showdowns to awkward social situations, these stories have it all. Get ready to laugh, cringe, and maybe even learn a thing or two as we present to you some of the most absurd and amusing moments the internet has to offer. For this first one, we've got a doozy for you. You know how sometimes during job interviews, you feel like you need to do something really unique and memorable to stand out? Well, our next storyteller had just that idea. They came up with a plan to really leave an impression on their potential employers, but things didn't exactly go as planned. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss this one. It's a wild ride from start to finish. So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh as we bring you the tale of the hot sauce job interview gone wrong as told by you/drank hot sauce regret. I have had a number of job interviews recently that went poorly and did not result in securing employment. I started to think I needed to do something during an interview to really stand out, be impressive, unique, and highly memorable. I thought it could be risky, but might work out. I came up with the following idea: after concluding the interview, after the handshakes, etc., when leaving the room, stop, turn around, and say, "There's one more thing you need to know about me." Then pull out a bottle of hot sauce, down the entire bottle, slam it onto the ground and say, "I can handle the heat." Nod confidently, leave the room. Boom. I imagined that they would be really impressed and wowed by such a performance. Well, it didn't pan out like I thought it would. It was only a small bottle of hot sauce. I figured it would be no big deal to actually do. I should have tested at home first, but I didn't. I was nervous as a bitch-ass during the interview, but I was determined to follow through with the plan. So I started exactly as described above. I was leaving. I turned around, maybe not with as much swagger as I'd imagined in my head, and I declared, "There's one more thing you need to know about me." I pulled out the hot sauce bottle, almost dropped it, and started to open the bottle. In my head it was all one quick confident motion, like an electric Indiana Jones, but instead I fumbled around and had a tough time getting it open. It felt like a nightmarish eternity but was probably only about 20 seconds. Enough time for one of the interviewers to ask me what I was doing. I didn't answer directly. Instead, after I got the bottle open, I repeated, "There's one more thing you need to know about me," but stuttering. Then I guzzled down the entire bottle of hot sauce. I instantly regretted it. My mouth and throat felt like lava was swirling around inside me. I immediately started to gag and loudly cough. I was crying involuntarily. Tears hardcore streaming down my face. I was sweating like a terrible fool. I desperately tried to scream, "I can handle the heat," but just kept coughing before I could get anything out. The interviewers were all standing up looking at me in horror and confusion. A few seconds before I threw up all over the floor. I knew it would happen, but I tried to hold it back. I couldn't. I threw up all over the floor. It hurt as much on the way out as it did on the way in, if not more so. The vomit felt like flaming barbed wire shredding its way through my neck. I should mention a disturbing amount of fiery mucus was also leaking out of my nose uncontrollably. After I finished throwing up, I could not bear to look at the interviewers. I hoarsely mumbled an apology and started to stumble as quickly as possible out the door. I have never been more shamed in my life. I didn't get the job. And now, for our next story in the most hilarious moments in Reddit history. This one comes from a 48-year-old man who has truly seen it all, but even he was caught off guard by the bizarre events that unfolded at a truck stop in the mid-80s. This story is a testament to the unpredictable and hilarious moments that can happen at any time, and we can't wait to share it with you. So sit back and relax as we bring you a story of a feud between a misbehaving dog, an agitated monkey, and a tiny baseball bat that is sure to have you laughing out loud, as told by you/clan spanker. As a man that has reached the ripe old age of 48, I can promise you I have seen some shit go down. This one totally takes the cake for me though. I was waiting out front of a truck stop back in the mid-80s. Sitting on a park bench with a guy that had a big Rottweiler kinda dog on a leash with him. I tried to make small talk, but he was quite a sourpuss. So, we sat in silence for a few minutes until the most unexpected thing I have ever seen happened right before my very eyes. While we were sitting there, a big 18-wheeler pulls in without a trailer, bobtail, so he parks right up front like a normal car would. Inside the cab of the truck with the driver is a little monkey. The dance for the organ grinder kind. I think they are called rhesus monkeys perhaps. Well, the dog spots this little monkey and proceeds to go apeshit over it, lunging at the end of his leash and barking at the top of his lungs, generally making a real spectacle of himself to say the least. The driver is obviously upset, but not nearly as much as the monkey is. Actually, upset may be the wrong adjective to use for the monkey though. In retrospect, I think eagerly aggressive may be a more appropriate description for his disposition. He was pacing the dashboard back and forth, never taking his eyes off of this very aggravating dog. The driver opens his little triangle window that they don't make on cars anymore, the ones made for smokers back in the day. He yells out to this douchebag to call his dog off because it is upsetting his monkey. The guy laughs and says, "No way, I told you he was a jerk, didn't I?" Says that his dog ain't bothering nobody. The dog hasn't shut up since he laid eyes on the monkey. I promise you he is bothering everybody for several blocks around. Now here's where things start to get interesting. The driver says that if he doesn't call his dog off, he's gonna let his monkey loose on that dog. Douchebag laughs and says that his dog would eat that monkey alive. Upon hearing this, the driver leans over and reaches into his glove box, I guess, pulls out one of those tiny baseball bats like you used to get at Astro World or carnivals, and places it in the monkey's hand. The monkey obviously knows what's about to go down because he is now trying to squeeze out of that little triangular window I mentioned earlier. This monkey has murder in his eyes if I have ever seen it. Driver hollers, "Last chance to save your dog's ass, man." In response, douchebag lets his dog off of the leash. Now we have a situation that has escalated to the point where we have a dog jumping up at the window and a monkey screaming profanities right back at him. Well, the driver finally rolls down the regular window and out leaps all kinds of miniature primate hell. The dog never knew what hit him. Quick as a flash, this monkey is riding on the back of this dog's neck, his two back feet all wrapped up in his neck fur with one hand hanging onto an ear. The other hand, as you may have guessed by now, is steadily and mercilessly raining down blows about this dog's head and face. I mean hard blows. You can hear them whop, whop, whop. Well, it only took a moment for the dog to realize he was in way over his head. He bolts yelping bloody murder as he runs away at full speed. I mean, this dog is running so fucking hard he's throwing up tufts of grass and dirt as soon as he leaves pavement. The monkey still riding him and beating on him the whole time. Douchebag acts like he wants to fight now, but several people including myself stepped in to stop that nonsense. In a couple of minutes or so, the little monkey comes loping back with his little butt still in hand and leaps up into the still open window of the truck to await his master, who has gone on into the store. That wanker ran off to try to go find his dog, but I don't know if he ever did. My ride showed up and I had to go. Never again in this lifetime will I see something so totally crazy and unexpected like that. I am both fortunate and humbled to have been so privileged to be present for such an event. So, Reddit, please do tell. What's your craziest thing you have ever seen in public? Last but not least, our next story just might take the cake as the unintentionally funniest moment in Reddit history. Imagine you're at a fancy dinner party, trying to make a good impression on your spouse's boss. Everything is going great, until you're served a rare steak that's barely cooked. What do? Well, our next storyteller had a creative solution, but things didn't exactly go as planned. Get ready for a hilarious tale of clumsiness, awkward apologies, and a raw steak that just won't go away. Here is the tale of the fateful dinner party, as told by you/defenestrate me now. Last night, my wife's boss from her brand new job invited us over for dinner. On the drive over, my wife reiterated many times to me just how important it was to make a good impression. I scoffed and arrogantly informed my silly wife that I always make good impressions. My wife's boss is a single lady in her 50s, so it was just the three of us. We chit-chatted over drinks and salads and seemed to really be hitting it off. She laughed at my well-timed, perfectly appropriate jokes, and my wife seemed pleased. Soon she brought out the main course, a nice big juicy steak for each of us. As I began to cut into my steak, I was discouraged to discover how undercooked this steak was. Now, I've had my fair share of rare steak. I prefer medium, but I can handle rare. This was several minutes on a hot grill short of rare. I probably could have resuscitated the cow had I tried. Instead, I sat there fidgeting with my knife and fork, worrying about how I was going to get away with not eating this steak. Claim veganism? No, I'd already feigned great enthusiasm upon seeing the steak. Just then, our hostess excused herself to the kitchen to take care of some dessert preparations. As I looked across the fancy dining room table at the open window of this third-story apartment, a cartoon light bulb appeared over my head. I knew I had to be decisive, realizing that she could return at any moment. I committed. I grabbed the steak with my hand, gently shook off the juice, and executed a perfect throw right through the center of the open window. Here's the big-time FU. The window wasn't open. It was the cleanest freaking window you've ever seen in your life. That is, until my mostly raw slab of steak slammed up against it and slowly slid down, leaving a trail of bloody juice in its wake. My wife, whose steak was a nice medium rare and was unaware of my predicament, turned, jaw dropped, and stared at me like I was an alien from another planet. This look then slowly morphed into more of a "there is no place on this planet you can ever hide from me" expression of demonic anger. My wife's boss heard the thud of the steak on window impact and came quickly. She took in the scene, the steak sitting on the windowsill, the blood trail, my empty plate, and then gave me an inquisitive, puzzled look. I just didn't know what to say. It felt like a minute of silence, but was probably 3 or 4 seconds. Finally, the best I could manage was, "I'm so sorry. I am such a klutz. I don't know. I was just cutting it, and it slipped. Just ask my wife. I really am a klutz, right honey? No help coming from that direction. I will clean this up. I can't believe this. I am so sorry, etc. etc." Both women continued to stare at me like I had escaped from the loony bin, as I smeared the blood around the window with my cloth napkin, dusted off the steak, and continued to mutter my incoherent explanation. I knew no one was buying the story. I knew what I had to do. I sheepishly returned to my seat and proceeded to eat every bite of that disgusting, cold, chewy, bloody, raw steak. I remained pretty quiet the rest of the evening. My wife's only 2 words to me since the incident are, "I'm fine." TLDR, tried to sneakily throw my undercooked steak through an open window, only to find out it wasn't open.